Good morning, everybody. How we doing?
Good morning, Mr. John. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good morning, Mr. John.
Hello, Fatima. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. What about you?
Well, just trying to get through winter.
Yeah,
It was so nice and warm yesterday, and today it's going to be cold again.
yeah. I think that it will be raining today, no?
I think we're supposed to get some rain. Yeah.
Because it's a little cloudy.
Well, this is the problem here. Is this is February? February is sort of, it's February is kind of a crazy month. Just like March. March gets a little bit warmer. Yes, we could have snow, but February is a very strange month. One day it could be very cold, next day warm, next day snow.
Mhm.
So I don't know. February is very frustrating.
Like a bridge.
It's just I don't know. It's funny because people talk about what's their favorite months. What's their least favorite month, and without a doubt, February is my least favorite, and it's
Mm,
funny because it's the shortest too, right? It's
yes.
the shortest month, and yet it's my least favorite month. It feels much longer. I say Patricia and May. Hey guys, how are you?
Hi, teacher. Good morning. Great, and you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good to hear, everybody. Very good.
Excellent.
All right. Well, hey, why don't we go ahead and get started? So here we are. It is Tuesday, February 4th. Yes, we were talking about February. Sometimes February is the shortest month, but it can feel very long. So we'll see how the rest of the month goes. But for today, here we are, February 4th. Now, I don't know if you saw this story. Maybe Gada, you can talk a little bit more about this. But so apparently a couple of months ago, someone was taking a paraglide, kind of flying over the pyramids in Egypt, and they noticed something very unusual on top of the pyramid.
Yes, yes, yes. I remember when the dog is walking up on the pyramid.
It was a dog, and so
Yes.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the video here. It's kind of amazing. It may be a little difficult to see here online, so I'll share the link. But basically, apparently this dog. Now I don't know if it's exactly this dog, but apparently this dog has done this many times. That this is something very common. So I'm going to click here on the link and just share the video real quickly with you. So this is from the New York Times video here. So I'm going to see if you can see it a little bit. So if you look right here over on the right side, there is a dog on top of the pyramid. Now, isn't that amazing? That is absolutely incredible. So this is paragliding, by the way. This is what he's doing. So he's got a little motor and he's flying over the pyramids. So, but apparently, so Gada, maybe you can help us with this. So apparently, there's a name for these kinds of dogs. Let me find it here. So they call them baladi. Is that right?
Baladi, yes.
Baladi.
Kalb
Baladi.
Yes, baladi.
So now they mentioned that it means like a native or a local.
Local, yes. It means local.
So these particular dogs really have no home, right? No
Yes, yes.
they don't, but they just kind of live in the area.
Yes. They're living on the streets.
So it's very interesting to think about that these, of course, these dogs, I don't think you want them as pets, but the idea here is that they have figured out how to climb all the way to the top of the pyramid. So, and again, maybe it's more than one. I don't know. So if you just joined us, I was sharing this story. This was from a couple of months ago. That this paraglider who was flying over the pyramids of Egypt saw a dog on top of the pyramids. And so it really was kind of an amazing thing to think about, that this dog climbed all the way to the top. Now, I think what's funny here is we think, yes, this dog did this, but what if the truth is, what if the truth is the dog can also fly? I don't know. I'm just a joke. Right? Maybe the dog is also paragliding. Who knows? But anyway,
Even the dog, even this dog has its own challenging. Go out for a living.
yeah. I thought this would be an interesting story to share because I was thinking about you, God. I'm coming from Egypt. That this was
Yes.
a pretty interesting thing. And so is this something that's common? I mean, do people actually see the dogs go to the top of the pyramid, or
No, it's not common in
okay,
Egypt.
okay?
So it's the most famous animal in the Egypt since since then.
This dog, I mean, and that's the funny thing about dogs, right? They don't even know. This is just what they do, right? So I think about my little dog. You know, my little dog does things, and you're thinking, hey, he's not even thinking about this, right? So anyway, I thought this was kind of an interesting story because you know we know animals can do amazing things. So I thought we would talk a little bit about this morning. So again, maybe this is. An interesting story. But I just wanted to ask first, as we're going to continue here on the lesson, but I want to ask first just a general question. Does anyone here in the class have pets? Anybody have a pet? A dog, a cat, a fish, anything? Yeah? So, Deanna, what do you have?
I have two crazy cats
And
from shelter.
can they do any specific tricks? Is there anything interesting they can do?
Yeah, they're both trying to climb on the walls. They like to jump on our heads every time we go into sleep.
Okay.
Also, I train one cat to bring toys like a dog. And when
Okay.
I like I like throw toys and they run towards this toy and
Yeah.
bring me back, and we can play like this hours. But only at
Yeah.
night
So we
because at
only
day
at
they're
night.
sleeping. Yeah.
That's funny thing about cats. Cats can sleep like 23 hours a day. Yeah. So first off, we have a name for that, Deanna. We call that fetch.
Fetch.
Yeah. So when you play with an animal to say, "Go get the dog," you know, "Go get the ball," "Go get the ball," we call that fetching. Fetching, like getting the ball and bringing it back.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah. Now, what's funny is a lot of dog breeds are good at fetching and then bringing something back to you. Our dogs, like my little dog, is a dachshund. So I may have shared this before, but dachshunds are great at getting something, but they're not great at bringing it back because they don't want to you know, they hold on to it. They don't like to give it up. So in this case, our dog likes to catch things, but doesn't like to give them back. So, so May, what kind of animal do you have? What pet do you have?
I have two guinea pigs.
Wow, two guinea pigs. And do they do any tricks or do they just eat?
Like most time they eat, and
Guys,
every time I open the refrigerator, they were like, "We for some treat."
they know. It's dinner time, right? Isn't that funny how animals can pick up on those types of behaviors? So I think about my dog again when we go for a walk. You know, here in the cold winter months. I may have shown you this picture last week. I don't know if I showed you this picture of my, you know, so we, unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to one of our dogs over the break, but I may have shared this picture with you of the dog we do have right now. So this is our little Iggy. This is his name. And you can see he's wearing a little coat, right? So every time we get the coat, he knows. He knows it's time for a walk, right? He gets really excited. So he's really ready to go outside. Now he doesn't want to stay outside, especially if it's snowing. So you see here, he didn't want to stay outside. He wanted to come inside. But he knows now, like after class, I'll take him for a little walk. So he knows if I bring out the coat, right, he knows it's time to go outside and take a walk. So it is funny how animals learn these things, isn't it? So, all right. Anyone else have any pets? Any other pets here in the class? A fish? A turtle? Maybe you have some insects in your house just flying around. I don't know. Hey, maybe. Okay. Well, anyway, I think, again, if you just joined us, we were talking about this amazing dog here in Egypt that climbs all the way to the top of the pyramids, right? So if you just joined us, this dog here, which again got a how did you pronounce it? Baladi,
Baladi.
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 Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So I guess in Arabic that means like local or native.
Yes, yes. It means local. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
We have
so we were
a lot
commenting
of
about
them
this
in Egypt.
dog has climbed all the way to.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was a unique situation
Well, it's very interesting
to
because
climb
I'm
to.
wondering, yeah, I'm wondering if this dog is telling the other dogs, this is my place now. Don't, my territory. Don't
I
climb.
think he was seeking for food or something like that, or
Maybe,
talking
maybe,
to the chronic.
or maybe he has something. Maybe he hid something at the top of the pyramid, right? Maybe he's got something.
Maybe.
Maybe he's got a little TV up there. Who knows? All
Yes.
right. Well, anyway, I just wanted to ask because once in a while I get some stories about animals, and I think about, okay, maybe my students have pets. Sometimes students have fish or maybe a turtle or something, especially if you have small children. I know sometimes we don't want to have a big animal. Maybe we want like a turtle or a fish or something. So, okay. Well, anyway, I thought we would talk for just a moment about that. I thought that was an interesting story. I'll share the little video when we're finished here this morning. Now, what I'd like to do is we're going to go ahead and continue with collocations. This is something we introduced in our last class, and we're going to see how much we remember, and then we're going to do like a little activity. Okay. Now, again, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about collocations specifically. I think it's more important really to think about how language works together. So yes, of course, it's nice to know what collocations are. We're going to discuss them again, but I think it's also important to think about how words work together. And that's really what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to help improve our language skills. So I thought we would do a little review. Now, with this review, we're going to use our emojis, okay? And then we'll discuss the answers. So if, again, A is the hand clap, B is the laughing symbol, and C is the party emoji. So that's when you're ready to respond, you can choose one of those three for each of these, and then I'll discuss. So what I'd like to do is let's see what we remember from last week's discussion of collocations or collocations. So let's take a look at number one. So which of the following is the best definition of a collocation? Is it A, a group of words that are defined only by the grammatical relationship they have? Is it B, a group of words that work together naturally? And then is it C, a group of words that make sense in every language? Okay, so everybody take a moment and make your decision. Which one would you choose? Okay, so I see lots of voting now. All right, so it looks like most people have chosen the correct answer, and that is B. So again, collocations are words that work together in a natural way. Now, of course, when we describe naturally, that's something we'll talk about here in just a moment. One thing we did say, just briefly, is that these words do have a grammatical relationship. So it's not just two words we just put together. No, it's two words that have some relationship, one word describing another or words working together. But the important thing to remember, though, is that the grammatical relationship does not create the meaning. So, for example, an adjective describes a noun. Okay, adjectives describe nouns. That's one of the jobs that adjectives do. But as we learned last week, of course, not every adjective can describe every noun. For example, if I said a purple banana, well, wait a minute. Bananas aren't purple. Of course, purple is an adjective describing something, but it doesn't make any sense. So one thing we have to remember is that collocations have some particular relationship in terms of meaning. They have to make sense. And the question, of course, in our next question is, how do they make sense? So very good, guys. Our first definition has been accomplished. Collocations are words that work together in a natural way. Okay, let's try number two. Now be careful, I've changed the emojis a little bit, so you have to pay attention. All right, so look at number two. what are the two ways that collocations are usually created? Is it A, culturally and locally, B, logically and culturally, or C, logically and crazily? So which one would you choose as the answer? How were they created? Okay, all right, I'm seeing some answers now. Okay, all right, now I'm going to give you a hint. I've only seen one person give the correct answer. Uh-oh. All right, well, guys, the answer is B. As we mentioned in our last class, collocations are created primarily in two ways: through culture. So now when I say the word culture, I'm using that in a very general way. So for example, when we said culture, we mean the tradition, the history, and the way we commonly use these words in a particular culture. So again, when I'm speaking of the United States or American American English, for example, this may be a little bit different from British English, for example. But the idea is many of the expressions we use in our language are often created in these ways, through tradition, through history, and so on. Now, in the second definition, we mentioned that there's also the idea of logic. They have to kind of make sense. And obviously, there has to be some necessary relationship between them. So, for example, when we said red, do you remember we discussed this last week? When I gave you the color red, I asked you, which things would you consider to be red? Now, some of you mentioned things like a red pencil or maybe a red shirt. Okay, it's true that red can describe many things. But for example, if I said apple, then you would recognize that that would be an example of a logical connection. Apples are red, right? That's what makes sense. So let's remember that when we talk about collocations, there seems to be some importance that they have to work together and they can fit in a kind of natural way. So as I said before, a red shirt would qualify as a collocation because red can describe shirts. That's perfectly fine. But think about the opposite, a bad collocation. For example, we don't save a red police shirt. I mean, for example, I'm using this, of course, based on our culture here in the United States and our tradition. But the idea is we don't think of police, for example, associated with the color red. Normally, we don't. We don't associate those things together. So what I'm saying here is, of course, a red shirt would be a good collocation or one that's acceptable. But there could be situations where we have a bad one that does not work. Now, many of us here in the class, we often confuse expressions or ideas because we're still learning about the English language, right? We're learning from our experience. So sometimes we use the wrong word, right? Sometimes we make a choice and we don't understand that we made a mistake. Well, sometimes we do that without, you know, without thinking, or that they're on purpose, right? They're by accident. So, of course, yes, the idea here is that certain words just don't go together. So just remember, collocations fit in those two ways, culturally and logically. But remember, we can think about, well, lots of things can go together, but many things cannot. So that's why we have to think about like red police shirt. That doesn't really make sense, does it? All right. Okay, here's another question for us. Okay, now we talked about this one last week. Which one of the following is not an acceptable collocation in American English? Okay, now guys, look at your choices. Okay, I'm going to read them real quickly. Then you tell me which one. So is it hamburger and french fries, salt and pepper, red, blue, and white, chocolate and vanilla, soup and salad? Okay, yeah, so you have to look carefully. Look carefully. Okay. All right, I see a few correct answers. I see a few. All right, so hopefully you voted. All right, so the answer is C. If you remember, I mentioned this in the context of something very important. Who can remember what we were talking about? That was red, white, and blue. Can you remember what were we talking about?
American flag.
The American flag. Now, notice what I say here. The colors are correct, right? These are the right colors. But the order of the expression is also important. The order was red, white, and blue. Now, last week I asked you guys why, and I think Gada was the one who came up with some very interesting explanations. So Gada, that was a good try, by the way. And actually, one of my students in the evening class tried also to think about maybe there was a reason, right? And so I said, well, that's a good guess, right? But I told you, no, that's not the reason, because it's just what we say. So unfortunately, collocations that are created by culture, they don't often have a logical explanation. There's no logic to it. They're just created that way. And then they kind of become culturally fixed. We just kind of remember them that way. Now, let's go back to our list. I noticed a couple of people put soup and salad. Maybe that doesn't seem common to you, but it would seem very common to an American English speaker, because often we go to restaurants and they might have a soup and salad bar, right? You go and you could get a salad bar or soup or both. Now, soup and salad seems very natural. Can I say salad and soup? Now, that's a good question. Could I switch the two words? What's interesting is most people don't say it that way. They don't say salad and soup. They say soup and salad. The question is why? Why do we say soup and salad? And honestly, I don't know. I have no idea why we do that. Maybe it's because soup is usually thought of as the first part of a meal, like the very first course, but I don't know. This is why we do it, right? I don't know. Again, look at all of the other choices. Maybe rhythm. I mean, these are all good questions. I mean, think about hamburger and French fries. Why do we say hamburger and French fries instead of French fries and hamburger? Why do we say pepper? Why don't we say pepper and salt instead of salt and pepper? Part of it might just be how it sounds. Yeah, I have no idea. But the truth here is that many of the collocations we use have no logic. We just say them that way. Maybe they sound better. Maybe they flow better. I don't know. So like I said, this is just what we say. So sometimes when they say, Mr. John, why do we say it this way? My answer is, I don't know. This is just what we do. I know. You think I should know all of the answers, right? Students think, Mr. John, you're the English teacher, right? Well, as Gada has reminded us, English is crazy. But you know what? If you had to think about your language, maybe this would be the same in your language. Why do you say words in this order? Why do we put things in this way? That's just how language is, right? So, okay. Now, again, as we continue from now till, as we keep learning expressions, the idea is to think about how do words work together. So I thought we would try this little activity right now. So these three words, do, make, and take, are probably some of the most common expressions we use in language. And I also think that there are some of the ones that are confusing, especially for my students. One reason is because do, make, and take in some languages might actually be the same word, or they may have different collocations in your language compared to how we might use them in English. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put the link to this activity in the chat right now. Okay. Now, when I put the link in the chat, this is what it's going to look like. So let me show you very quickly. Okay. Now, if you're using your phone, you should be able to use your finger for this exercise. If you're using a computer, you can use a mouse. But here's what I want you to do. So if you'll notice, I've made the words do, make, and take in different colors. So when you open the link, you can move the words do, make, and take like this on the screen. Okay? And then the idea is I want you to look at your choices down here at the bottom, and you're going to try to collocate those with the correct words. Okay? Now, let's take a simple one. For example, if I said a mistake, a mistake. Let's do this as kind of our example. All right, so class, do we do a mistake, make a mistake, or take a mistake?
Make a mistake.
So we make a mistake. So what you will do is take the word mistake and put it under the word make. Okay? Now, you might say, Mr. John, is it possible that some of these might have more than one answer? Probably not. Probably not. There might be a couple that you could argue in different ways. But in general, most of these have only one relationship. Okay? So the idea is, you won't find mistake in the other two choices. Usually we use it with make, right? So, okay. Now I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. And I'm going to give you a few minutes to try this exercise by yourself. Okay. Now, no cheating. Okay. No dictionaries, no help. I'm not going to help you. All right. So everybody go ahead now and go to the chat and see if you can click on the link and see if it will open for you. Okay, so everybody okay? Any problems? Okay.
No, everything is okay. Thank you.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to give you a few minutes. So we'll start with a 5-minute. I'll give you about 5 minutes or so. I'll check back in about 5 minutes to see if we're finished, and then we will check our answers. Okay? All right, so guys, good luck. All right, everybody, time is up. So now I'm going to go ahead and share the answers on the screen. You can check your answers and see if you have the same ones. But here we go. Okay, I'm trying to fit it on the screen. I may have to move them down, but hopefully you can see them there. So let's start with the do category. So we do our taxes, we do homework, we do a good thing, and we do a dance. For make, we make a mistake, we make time for someone, we make a mess, and we make a cake. For take, we take your time, we take a test, we take a taxi, and we take some medicine. Now, I'm going to see if we have any questions. So let's go back to the word mess. So we had a question. What does a mess mean? When we make a mess. Someone help us with that? Diana?
We make it like dirty. Something.
Make something dirty. Let's use an example. So like when we're in the kitchen, right? We're making something, maybe making some food.
And we made mess.
Yeah, we
left like dirty dishes, a lot of like food on the floor, on a table, and you need to clean it. And cats trying to eat this food from a floor.
Diana, this is a very interesting picture you're making for us here.
Yeah.
Is this your kitchen after you make something?
Sometimes.
Okay.
But I clean it fast.
I see why your cats now are so busy. Okay, I got it. All right, Patricia.
Teacher, I'm sorry. I have a question about the time impression. Where is the correct answer in take, make, or do?
Did it not appear on the screen?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh goodness. Let me go back to my original one. It may be one that disappeared here. Yeah, there it is. I'm sorry. I don't know why this didn't appear.
Don't worry.
So it's
Yeah.
due time in prison.
Do?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
we call it doing time. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
Now, before we get too far, you may have questions. Why do we say that? And honestly, sometimes I have no answer. This is just what we say. We do time in prison. Yeah. Now, what I can say to everybody is, if you look carefully, notice the word time has different, meanings in each example. So, for example, to do time, to make time, or to take time, each one is different, but I gave you a little hint for each one. For example, for do time, I put it in the context of when we say we're doing time, the context is in prison. So in this case, it helps to know what the context is. When we make time, notice we make time for somebody. By the way, what does that mean, you think, to make time for someone?
To give him time, for example.
Absolutely, especially if you have maybe you have grandchildren or you want to spend time with someone. So when we make time for someone, this is similar to spending time, finding time with someone, to do a certain activity. Yeah. So in this case, that's one kind of meaning, right? Now, what about taking your time? What do you think this means, to take your time?
It means don't rush. Take your time. Don't rush. Take your
Yeah,
time.
don't rush. Yeah, don't rush. Be careful. Yeah, don't go too fast. Yes. Okay. So that's why I tried to give you a little more information, because the word time has lots of meanings. So one of the problems we have with collocations, with making these connections, is that often these words change meaning depending on their relationships. So if I take time, make time, or do time, they all have different meanings, don't they? So that's why I gave you a little more information, because they do have specific contexts. So this is something else we'll talk about in the future when we make these kinds of sentences. Now, Julie, you had a question?
Yeah, it's for me, when I think in a dance, for example, do a dance. But if you say, for example, a dance class, you can say take.
Exactly. That is correct. Yeah. So, Julie, I think you're starting to see how words, right, the different relationships depend on the other words in the sentence. So in this case, if I said a dance class, then I would say you take a dance class, because class is the relationship, right? Okay, good. Very good, Julie. All right. Any other questions? Any other things that we're not sure about? Okay, got it.
Can we say that the meaning of to make a noise? It's not a chaos. Noise, chaos. It's the same meaning.
I think it depends on the context. If I say not exactly. I think chaos would be an extreme example of that. So are you asking me if I can say make chaos? Or are you saying...
No. No, I don't. I don't mean it. I mean to make a mess. It means to make
a
to
mess. Okay.
make a chaos. Or
well, I'll give you my feeling. I think mess. The word mess can be modified. You can make a big mess, or you can make a little mess. But I don't think you can make a little chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Yeah. So God is asking about this particular word, which again in English we would spell this way, chaos. So again, the word chaos would be like an extreme, I think, answer. So if somebody is making chaos, I think there is no way to say a little or a lot. Chaos is like an extreme word.
Yes.
Yeah. But a mess, I mean, if here you can't see my desk, so if you look at my desk right now, if I took the camera and showed you my desk, it's a little messy. It's a little messy. Now, is it chaos? Well, I
No,
guess
no, no, no.
it depends on it depends on you if you think so. Sometimes I look at my wife's desk and I think this is chaos, but but she knows exactly where everything is located, right? So but again, the idea is I think chaos is kind of an extreme.
Mm,
So in this case, I don't know that I could say make a little chaos in the same meaning. I think if you make a mess, it could be a little mess.
mhm,
Like for example, I could spill some water,
mhm.
and that's a mess. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, that's a good
I get
question.
it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's a good question. But that also brings up part of the challenge in making these types of connections is because some words do have degrees. Some things are big, some things are small, some things are hot, cold, extreme, intense. So that's a good question. All right, any other questions? Any other questions? All right, now I'm not going to ask you guys if you got all of the answers. I hope you did, but if you didn't, it does help to understand why do we make these connections. Sometimes there's no answer. This is just how we co-locate information. Like I said, for example, in Spanish, it's possible that one word, not always, but it's possible that one word could be all three of these particular sort of translations or meanings. So even when I was learning Spanish, I often had, some difficulties because I would want to use my English understanding to make these connections. And the problem here, of course, is it doesn't work like that, right? You have to try to think in the language, and that's not always easy, right? It's not. I mean, the word do and make are very difficult to distinguish. Their meanings are so similar. So again, that's where it gets really crazy when we try to think about translation. Translating from one language to another can be very difficult. All right, got it. You got the last question.
Yes, yes. I'd like to ask about do your taxes. It means for me as an employee or as an accountant.
So I don't think there's a distinction. Now, I think it depends on if you're the one who's responsible for them. I think the key word there actually is the word your. So
Mm,
if I do taxes, like if I say, for example, what's your job? I'm an accountant. I do taxes.
to pay.
No, it just means that I prepare them. Like I prepare the
Mm,
documents for them. But the key word in there is to do your taxes, which means you have the responsibility for your own taxes. So I could say, for example, my accountant does taxes, right? Does
mm,
my taxes, for example.
yes, yes.
Yeah. So part of the challenge is to think about, for example, the word do. Just to finish with this, Gata. If I go to the dictionary right now and I type in the word do, so let me show you. I'm going to stop sharing this for a moment. So if I go to the dictionary and I type in the word do, I'm going to use dictionary.com because that's a pretty big dictionary. So if I just type in the word do, okay, and then let's see if I can get rid of this. Okay. All right. So one of the challenges in language, especially in English, is because we have so many of these little words. With the word do, for example, if I just kind of went through and showed you all of the different ways we use do, like here, for example, number 7, to do the dishes, right? This is one we just talked about. But if I continue, you will notice how many different meanings we can use with this word. Take a look, right? We're already at, 25. Here are ones we use by themselves. Again, if I think about the different meanings, there are at least 25 different ways we use this word do in English. And even then, the word do is not the most common, is not the word with the most common sort of associations. If I type in the word run, for example, looking at the word run, if you look carefully here, again, I don't know why I'm getting all these commercials. If I scroll through the word run, take a look. We've got 30, 40, 50, many, many different ways to use this particular word. Now, if I asked you, Gata, to think about the word do or make or take or run in your language, it would probably take you a long time to sit here and count how many different ways do we use a particular word, right? That's the thing about English. English has such a big vocabulary, but many of these words do a lot of work. You know, the word do. You'll hear, like, for example, class, after we're finished here today, you know, watch TV or, you know, just listen to people talking. Listen how many times they just use the word do in their everyday conversation. Because the word do could be used so many different ways. I might say, for example, I'm hungry. Let's do lunch. Huh? Let's do lunch. What does that mean? You know, what are you doing? Oh, I'm working on my home. You know, the word do has so many different uses in the English language. So again, it's funny to think here in English, we've got all of these vocabulary words, and yet some of these words do a lot of work for us. Finally, the word get. Right? I think many of you have noticed we use the word get a lot in English. We get ready, right? We get a shower, we get some food, we get some time with some people. We use the word get to do lots of things too. So it's very interesting, God, when we think about all of these different words, how many of them can be used as a you know, kind of a very convenient way to say things. So again, the word do, like we said, for example, when we do taxes. Well, what does that mean? Are they my taxes, your taxes? Am I preparing them? Am I paying them? Do you see? It could mean all of those things. You see what I mean? Yeah. So that's why English can be very crazy. Because, for example, if someone says, "Did you do your taxes this year?" I mean, they could have lots of different meanings. Did you prepare them yourself? Did you pay for them? Did you do them on time? There could be lots of meanings. So, all right. Well, we could talk about this for a long time. When we're finished here, I will share the answers just to kind of review what we were doing here today. But need to move on. So we're going to go ahead and continue on in our lesson. Now, last class, I just had just enough time to introduce our next topic, but we're going to get a little more in detail. So we have been practicing a lot with comparisons, right? We've been making comparatives. So today we're going to kind of go back and review a little bit and then do some exercises. Comparatives with adverbs. So again, let's review what an adverb is, and then let's talk about how we make comparisons with adverbs. And like I said before, when we make comparatives, the important thing first is to understand what an adverb does. So let's go back and review that real quickly. Okay. So in the instructions, it says, right? If I can zoom in here. Okay, there we go. All right, so an adverb describes a verb. Now that's one way or one job that an adverb has, is describing how we do particular actions. So for example, if I said, how is Sun running? She's running slowly, right? She walks quickly. So last class, we just kind of mentioned that if we want to make an adverb, well, the most common way to do that is to take quick and then add ly, right? Or slow and add ly. We could also use it for feelings, like I'm happy. So we could add ly, but remember, just like we did with other comparatives, we changed the y to an I. So happily, right? If the word ends in a consonant le, like terrible, for example, we would just drop the e and add the letter y, terribly, for example. Or if we have an adjective that ends in a consonant, like a consonant L, for example, careful would be a double L, carefully. So part of it is just thinking about what the word is that we're trying to change. Now, in just a moment, we're going to do a couple of practice examples making adverbs. Of course, there are exceptions. This is English. We always have irregulars. So, for example, good, if you remember, becomes the word well. How are you feeling today? He isn't feeling well. Now, I mentioned last class that many English speakers don't use the word well. They still use the word good. So, for example, he isn't feeling good, or I'm feeling good today. Now, in everyday English, that's okay. That's fine. People say this on the street. But again, if we're thinking in a grammatical way, we should say feeling well or doing well, you know. Now, of course, we have other adverbs. And as we mentioned before, just like we did with adjectives, if we have words that have more than, you know, for example, quickly, if we're comparing these words, just like we did with comparatives that have 2 syllables, with adverbs, it doesn't matter how many syllables we have. Because the word ends in ly, we've already added a suffix to the ending, like quickly. So notice we don't say, for example, quicklier. We don't do that. So the nice thing here is we just add the word more. So for example, Layla runs quickly, but Son runs more quickly. And then, of course, don't forget the word than, more quickly than Layla. Now, we do have to be careful because there are some words that have irregular forms. For example, the word well, we don't say cooks weller than. So instead, we go back and borrow the word good for better. So in this case, we say Ricardo cooks better than someone. Remember bad, right? We've got the word bad or badly. So if I do something badly, that's okay. But if I want to use it as a comparative, we would say worse than. And then finally, when we climb the hills, so fast, for example, fast is already an adverb, right? If I run fast. But if I want to make it a comparative, for some reason, right, we say faster. We don't say more fast. We say faster than Ricardo. Now, I do want to add one more to the list. It's not here for some reason they didn't include it, but also the word hard, right? So you might recall when I asked you, like, how difficult is this test? You might say this test is hard. But if we use it as a comparative, right, we would say harder than. So if I say, for example, this test is harder than, that would be an adjective. But if I say, for example, how do you work? Well, I work harder than this person, right? Or she works harder than everybody. So again, there are a few examples where there are irregular forms. So again, these would be the irregular adverb forms, and then over here would be how we compare them. Now, again, in my opinion, the best way to continue to learn these ideas is to practice them. So that's what we're going to do here for the remainder of our time here this morning. So basic rules to remember, and then to kind of continue to build our understanding. So that's kind of the challenge here this morning as we get into these exercises. So that's what I want to do next. Let's go ahead and just do some activities. Now, in our first activity, we are not making comparisons. We're just making adverbs. So for example, let's just do number 1 as kind of an example together. So Peter is a bad driver, right? So bad is describing how he drives. But if I want to describe how he drives
Badly.
badly.
No.
Yeah, so
Worse.
Now remember, worse is
Yes.
worse is a comparison word. So in this case, we would just say he drives badly. So there we go. That's how he drives. He drives badly. Okay. Now, I think some of you said last week that some of you drive badly here in the United States. I mean, it's hard, especially if we don't have experience. Okay. Let's do one more as a together example. So let's look at number 2. Janet is a hard worker. She works. What do you think?
Hard.
Probably.
Okay, so this is one of those again where it's a little confusing, but the answer is she works hard. So the word hard doesn't change. This is one where it doesn't change. Now let's take the word hardly, because I heard some people mention hardly. Well, this word actually has a totally different meaning in English. So English is crazy. I told you, nothing makes sense. So for example, the word hardly Has anybody heard this word before in an example?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I've heard it before.
Nobody? Yeah? What does it mean?
Yes, yes, yes. I hardly pronounce some words. It means in difficult way.
Yeah, so basically it means it's a challenge for me, but what it means is I can almost, or I can do it, but just a little bit. So for example, some of you may also know the word barely. So it means with some difficulty. To the point where you almost can't do it. Almost. Not quite, almost. So, for example, if I said I've hardly finished my food, right? So, for example, if you're eating and you said I've hardly finished, it just means you've eaten just a little bit, right? Some difficulty. So, in this case, the word hardly has a totally different meaning from the word hard. And of course, that's where English is crazy. So again, take a look here. I'm going to pull up the dictionary just to show you. So again, the word hardly actually has its own dictionary meaning. So hardly, barely, scarcely. It's used to say that something was almost not possible. So this word has a totally different meaning. Okay? So congratulations, guys. English is crazy. So this is just one of those words you have to memorize. So again, look at the 3 examples or 4 examples here. She could hardly bear to look at him, like she almost could not look at him. I could hardly believe my eyes, right? It was difficult to believe what I was seeing. I can hardly believe it, like it's almost impossible to believe. Or she was hardly able to control her excitement. She was so excited she almost couldn't control it. So again, this is one of those words in English that, yes, it's kind of crazy. It is. It's kind of crazy. All right. Well, let's come back to our example. So now, as we said before, the answer is she works hard. Not hardly. She works hard because it says she's a hard worker. She's a good worker. Okay. All right. So now I'm just going to call on different students. So the idea is we're making adverbs in these examples. So maybe Barbara, would you like to try number 3? So read the sentence for us and then see if you can make the adverb.
Sure. Be careful when you pack bottles. Pack them. Pack them carefully in plastic bags.
Very good. Carefully in plastic bags. And don't forget to double the L, right, when we put carefully. Okay, very good. All right, good work. All right, see, Lolly, would you like to try number 4? Hello, Seed Lolly, are you there? Okay, maybe not at the moment. All right, Samira, you want to try number 4?
My father is a terrible singer. He sang that song terribly.
Okay. Terribly. And should I keep the E? Or should I just put Y?
Just puts it Y.
Very good. Yeah, the E is not necessary. So in this case, he sang terribly. All right, now, I don't know if you sing terribly, Samira. How do you sing? Do you sing well or do you sing terribly?
No, terribly.
Terribly. Okay, don't worry. I'm not going to ask you to show us. Okay. All right. Thank you, Samira. All right, May, would you like to try number 5?
I have always been a slow reader. I read very slowly.
All right, very good. So far, we're off to a good start. Is this true, May? Are you a slow reader? Do you read slowly?
Yes.
Even in your language?
My language I read fast.
So this is reading in English. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Listen, it takes time. Takes time. And of course, many students say, Mr. John, even in my language, I read slowly. But yeah, so in this case, you are correct. All right, so let's take a look at our answers for the first ones, right? So 1 was badly, 2 hard. So again, hard is an adverb too. Number 3, carefully. Number 4, terribly. And number 5, slowly. All right, let's continue. I've got some other ones for us to practice, so I'm going to clear these so we can go to the next one. All right, let's take a look at number 6. Fatima, would you like to try number 6 for us?
Ben and Jack are fast swimmers. They swim very fastly.
Okay, now, will we say fastly or just fast?
I think fastly. I think.
All right, well, I'm gonna give you a hint. In this case, no.
Oh, so sorry for that.
Yeah, so if you
why, Mr. John?
Fatima, that's just how English is.
English is crazy.
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, so if you're, I don't know if you recall, a few minutes ago we talked about those exceptions. So yeah, so for example, the word fast
Yeah.
is just fast. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
I wish I could give you a better explanation,
Yeah.
but I can't. So I don't have a good explanation. So in this case, it's just fast. All right. All right, Deanna.
We must pay attention.
Yes, well, and some of it's just memorization. I mean, you ask an English speaker, they won't know the answer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, Deanna, you want to try number 7?
Yeah, I can try. The baby can only sleep when it's quiet. Please play. I don't know.
Well, you got a 50-50 guess.
Quietly sounds strange.
Well, it may sound strange, but it is correct.
Really? Quietly?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, Deanna, you make a good point. Sometimes students, if something sounds strange to us, maybe it's just because we're not used to it. Sometimes our ears can help us if we listen to it and think, does this sound correct or not? So, Deanna, you make a very good sort of demonstration that sometimes our ears can help us if we're not sure. But if it sounds strange, maybe it's just because we don't hear it that much. So maybe after today, maybe you'll hear this sometime today or tomorrow. Someone will say, please play quietly. I think probably it's strange because most of the time people probably use the word quiet like this. For example, like be quiet. You're probably more familiar with something like this. So in this case, that may be why. But in this case, you're correct. Quietly is describing how we play. All right, so let's try the last one. All right, so Patricia, would you like to try number 8?
Yeah. Mrs. Clark is a good cook. She also bakes. Well, or fine? I'm not sure.
We'll stick with well. Yeah, we'll stick with well. Now, again, this is one of those situations where someone might say she bakes good. Again, what we're talking about is the difference between, kind of the English we speak on the street and the grammatical form of English we're talking about here today. So she bakes well. Okay, now let's kind of stop for just a moment. So again, what we're talking about first today is how we make adverbs, and especially adverbs that describe how we do something. Okay, so part of the challenge in this next exercise, right, is to think about what we did in this exercise and how we could make them comparative. So as we said before, most of the time I could just use the word more, right? More, but in some cases that's not the case. So in this next exercise, we're going to start together, and then you and your partner or partners will go into the breakout room and see if you can finish the activity. So let's take a look, and let's see, where did I put it? Hold on just a second. I put this exercise in a different one. Let's see. Here it is. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. All right. So in just a moment, you're going to do this exercise. So this exercise now is taking the information we just learned and then using it as a comparative form. Now, remember, when we compare something, we're comparing two things. Some things to remember, even with an adverb, we must include the word than, right? That is important because that word than is telling us that we're comparing two things. The problem, of course, is recognizing how to take the adverb or adjective idea and make it a comparative form. So, for example, take a look at number 1. So in number 1, we're given some context. Paula is quite a good cook, right? Good is the word we're taking. Maria is an excellent cook. So in this case, we can see, if we think about it, excellent is a stronger word than good, right? But if we're going to make the comparative, so remember, good would become the word better. Maria cooks better than Paula. Now, you might think, Mr. John, could I say excellently? She cooks more excellently than Paula? Is that possible? Could I just put ly on excellent and say more excellently than? Yeah, but the truth is nobody uses the word excellent as a comparative. Because if someone is excellent, we usually think of excellent as the top. Okay, so in this case, we don't really make a comparative of the word excellent because excellent would be the best or at least the top of our list. So in this case, no, we wouldn't say more excellently. That's not really possible. So in this case, good, we would say better. Okay. All right, so this is going to be a little bit of an exercise where we have to think a little bit. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into the breakout room. There are 7 sentences where you and your group are going to make comparatives. And then when we come back, we'll check the answers to the exercise. So as you're talking to each other, think about how you're going to change the word and make it a comparative adverb. All right, so again, it's going to require a little bit of memory. But again, hopefully you can figure it out. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and we're going to go into the breakout room. I think we'll probably do groups of 3. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I think we'll do groups of 3, and maybe we'll do one group of 4. All right, so again, what you might want to do is maybe each person reads a sentence, right? Does the example, does the answer, then the next person and the next person. But you can help, of course. You can help each other in the activity. So we're going to start with about 5 minutes and see if we're finished. If not, we can give you more time. But I think we might be able to finish this in about 5 minutes. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and send everybody to the breakout room, and I'll be there in just a moment to share the links. All right, we're all just about back. Okay, so I'm going to just go through the list, and you guys, if you want to help me out with the answer. So, Huang, would you like to try number 2 for us?
Number 2, Peter is very careful when he rides, while Bert is not very careful. Peter rides carefully than Bert.
Then Bert. Okay, so Huang, you are 75% correct, or 67% correct. We forgot one word.
More.
Carefully than.
More. Remember, these are comparatives, right? So
Yeah.
you had 67. You had 2/3 of the answer. So in this case, he drives more carefully than.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got it.
it.
Yeah, so you had almost all of it. So, okay. All right. So, Gata, would you like to try number 3?
Okay. Horses are fast runners, but giraffes are even faster. Giraffes run more fast than horses.
Good guess, but no. This is one of those irregular ones.
When we describe the run, we describe the run with fast, not fastly.
That's correct. So that means the comparative is going to be
Faster than?
faster than.
I have a little confused.
Well, now, God, if you say, why, Mr. John, I'm going to tell you, I
Okay.
don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's English.
Yes.
So, God, all I can tell you is you just have to remember it. So, in this
Mhm.
case, yeah, faster than. That's it. Faster than. Okay, so
Okay.
there you go. All right. Barbara, would you like to try number 4?
Sure. One minute. Jane and Mary are playing. Jane is very happy with her game, but Mary is not a happy. Jane is playing happily than Mary.
Okay, once again, you're 67% correct.
Oh, more happily than?
More happily than.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, remember, these are comparatives,
Mhm.
right? There we go. So you got almost all of it. So more happily than. Now, I think, honestly, guys, I think number 4 is a little crazy. Would you compare happiness levels of happiness with someone? Probably not. I'm more happily playing than you are. So maybe number 4 is a good grammar exercise, but I don't think it's a real world example. Most people would not put those words more happily. So maybe that's why it sounds crazy, Barbara, is maybe it just doesn't sound very natural. Julie?
Yeah, it's just because the sound, and when you have the collocation, you talk and you say happy, more happily. It's, it's a little confused. It's you
Yeah.
thought it's happy, more happy than. It's confused.
Well, I think it's probably more common to say I am happier instead of happily. I do think that it's much more common to use it as an adjective. Like you might say, for example, Julie is happier in English class
Yes, I do.
than at work, for example. Yeah, so yeah, that sounds a lot more common. I think I'm happier. Yeah, that sounds more common. I agree with you, Julie. So I do think part of it is how would I use the word happy? So in
Yep.
number 4, yeah, I wouldn't use it like this in everyday language. So
Yeah,
that's
yes.
yeah, I certainly agree with you. But I think your answer, you're happier in English class than at work, is probably true. So okay. All right. Okay, we're off to a good start. It is a little crazy, I understand, but that's just how it is, right? Okay. Okay, well, guys, let's hurry up and finish our activity because our time is getting short. All right, now, see, Lolly, would you like to try number 5?
Hello, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Linda did oh, I need to read everything?
Yes. Read
Okay.
everything for us.
Linda did well on her English test while the other students got bad grades. The other students did worse than Linda on the English test.
Very good. Yes.
Yay.
All right. So again, this was one of those words where we don't need the word more. We just say worse than. So again, I agree. It's a lot of little things to remember, but that is the answer. All right. Now, looking at the last 2, right? Number 6, for example, if you notice, slower is already put in the sentence. But again, it takes a little thinking to think about how to put it in the sentence itself. So let's see. Deanna, would you like to try number 6?
My mother does things very quickly, but my father is slower. My father does things more slowly than my mother.
Very good. Yeah, so again, that's could be a little tricky. Looking at the sentence is slower. We already have a comparative word, But to use the comparative adverb, we have to use the word more slowly than. All right, very good. Okay, we're up to number 7. All right, Fatima, would you like to try the last one there for us?
Yeah, it is easy for Lenny to learn new songs. It isn't as easy for Sam. Lenny learns songs easily than Sam.
Oh, you're 67% correct.
More easily than
There we go.
Sam.
There you go. Very good. And don't forget to change the Y to an I more easily than. Now, again, this is one of those situations, more easily. It sounds a little strange to us, but I do want to mention that's why we do some of these activities. Because in a way, they do show us that these ideas exist, right? More easily, more happily, right? We can use these words, but as Julie mentioned a few minutes ago, that doesn't mean that we use them a lot. I think that's why sometimes things might sound a little strange to us when we're doing these kinds of activities because, yeah, I don't know that I would use the sentence like this more easily, or more happily. These sounds a little strange to me too, and I speak English. So I do think that's a good point. That's what these exercises are, good exercises. They help us understand that these ideas exist, but they also tell us, do we use them that often? It depends. My advice to everyone here this morning is as you're watching TV or listening to the radio or whatever you do in the next couple of days, listen and see. You might catch some of these words or some of these ideas, and you might say, whoa, people do use these expressions, but maybe I never paid attention to them before, right? Like the quiet and quietly, right? That may be something that you've never noticed before. That happens a lot in language, right? When we now are made aware, like when someone shows us how something works, suddenly we start hearing this idea in many places. That happens a lot when we learn ideas. So okay, well, guys, I think we're off to a great start here this morning with this idea. We'll continue with this idea as we go along, but I think we're going to stop there for today. I had one more activity, but I don't think we'll have time to do it. So we'll save it for our next class. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today, and I'll switch back over to our presentation. So, guys, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you, Mr.
everyone.
John.
See you
See
next
you.
Thursday.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you.